genetic diagnostic testing, which means they basically get a sample of your DNA from swabs, and then they can run it along different assays to get different profiles on you. And one of them is genotyping, and one of them is gene expression. But I'm focusing on specifically cancer reports. So I'll teach you guys about it in the video. And yeah, you guys can just watch this. I'm talking about. Questions on what genetic testing is, or exactly how it can benefit or even hurt communities, feel free to ask at this time. Or even about the internship in general, what we do when we go there and what we've learned so far. Do you guys have any questions?
Can you talk about what you do at your internship?
Yeah, so at Ann Global Health, they're like a big corporation. They do anything from drug testing to blood tests, and then I'm in the genetics department, which means they do women's health, pharmacogenetics, and then hereditary cancer. And basically, when we go in, we've extracted our own DNA, and so we got our own pharmacogenetic reports, which basically means that we extracted our DNA, we got to run it in the big machine with a bunch of metabolites, and then we now know I can't take ibuprofen. Apparently it doesn't work well in my system, but it tells you certain things like that, which is really good for people, because at that point, if you're taking certain drugs and they're all very similar, like a heart condition, if you need a certain drug, it can really affect whether or not you're going to live or not, which is actually what happened with the owner of Ann Global Health. He got a PGX report. He found out that his medicine he was taking for his heart condition was actually hurting him more than it was helping him. That's why he had 3 seizures in like 1 year. So it ended up saving his life in the end. So yeah, so that kind of stuff right there. Are there any other questions?
Can you explain to them the different areas in the lab?
Yeah.
In Aon there.
So, okay, so there is toxicology. That's where you do drug testing, and they test so many different drugs. I cannot name all of them. I've only been over there a few times. Genetics lab, as I told you, there's hereditary cancer with the CGX, PGX, which is pharmacogenetics, and then women's health, they tell you if you have anything going on within your system. And then there's also the blood department, which can test any kind of blood-related disease, which is like anemia, HIV, and like a bunch of different ones that I'm not very familiar with as well. They're also setting up an antibiotic resistance lab, and what was it, Parker? It's called
Allergies.
Allergies, but they just got airborne. What was it?
Respiratory disease.
Respiratory. They just set up respiratory. They're having a little bit of problem with contamination right now, but they're setting it up right now. So it's pretty cool. They have all these different things. The respiratory is actually based in the genetics, so we've seen a little bit of it. We got to help with an extraction actually the other day. We actually got to do it, so that was fun. So yeah, there's a bunch of different stuff. We are supposed to do rotations, but we've ended up staying in the genetics lab pretty much this entire time because we have fun in there. It's cool. Yeah,
How many hours a week?
We have 1 period off, so we're required to get 10. But last month we got I got 17 hours because I was there.
A month?
Yeah, in a month. We're required to get 10 hours in a month for 1 period off, and then I ended up getting like 17. But I spend 1 hour there on Monday, about 3 hours on Thursday, because it's about a 40-minute drive. It's all the way up from Gainesville, and then by the time I get there, it's about an hour. And then on Thursdays, we have a long block of 7 period off, so we go for a long time. And that's where we get our hours primarily.
And what were your tasks in the genetic area?
So that would vary. We did accessioning at one point, or accessioning, sorry, which means that we basically, whenever we got samples in, you had to put the patient name on there, make sure that the number was correct, because if it gets off, then whatever you've extracted doesn't matter, we don't know whose it is. And then we've compiled data for them, which means that we've looked at like a bunch of previous reports. We've had to write down what all of their samples were coming up as, and then that had to be sent off to some governmental agencies to validate that we were like getting the right numbers, or seeing if there was an increase in certain diseases showing up, or certain pathogenic strains that were like in women's health reports that were appearing, which is just good because obviously they need to know that kind of information. We did our own DNA extraction, and we actually did the entire run-through of the process, so we did our own complete PGX. We've done an entire PGX with these things called the blue tubes. They're infamous because they suck, because it's like a 6-hour extraction, and we had to stay an additional 2 hours one day to like do it. It was awful. They had to spin it down like 3 extra times compared to like a cancer, which is supposed to be the longest one they have, which is 3-hour extraction. And we've observed more cancer than we've done it, for the sheer fact that they don't get many of those in, and when they do, they want to get that right, because that's where real money is. So yeah. Yeah, is there any other stuff? You guys are like farther away from having to do a capstone or even think about it, right? Probably. You're
Yeah, they're
sophomores.
sophomores, but they're actually
should-
presenting
What do you
articles
mean?
and presentations.
That's pretty good. You guys should definitely think about doing that immediately, because I actually did a capstone and an internship, because I did science fair, so I knocked off a capstone and a competition at once. But if you don't get like an internship, if you apply through honors mentorship, or you just don't have the connections, doing this kind of stuff, if you want to go into research, or you just want to distinguish yourself to a college, this looks really good, because you are showing that you are capable of doing really, really cool stuff, and like really putting like time into thorough research, but at the same time, you guys are like preparing yourself. If this is the field you want to go into, it'll expose you. Like maybe you don't really care about all the stuff as much as you thought you did, and that's good to realize now. Or you really do care about it, and you're going to be putting information out there that helps somebody. And that's really what's the true thing that STEM is for. We're really trying to help people in whatever way is possible. So yeah, thank you guys for your time. Yeah.